All I want to do is just talk about how great paint on glass is and like send you like my favorite paint on glass films, because there are so many fantastic animators doing like such brilliant things with it. I just want more people to animate. I want more people to do paint on glass and like the really beautiful animation forms that you primarily see like at festivals. By watching more short films, I always feel so encouraged to make more. And it's like, I wish I could bottle the feeling after like a week at Annecy of just kind of like, I love animation, I love short films, I want to do this, I want to do that, and then just kind of like drink a little bit of it like in the dark months of like November and January.
Hi everyone, I'm delighted to say that I recently got the chance to record an interview with Tilly Wallace. She is a writer, director and animator known for working with paint on glass. Her most recent film, Traces, was funded by the BFI Network via their annual short film fund and is currently screening on the film festival circuit. Traces is a film that is absent of dialogue. Instead, through visually striking imagery and emotive sound design, a story is described of an astronaut father who has to leave his son behind. It's a film all about the impact we have on our environments. I must say that until I saw Traces, I had never seen a film quite like it. I met Tilly and her producing partner Markus at the British Shorts Film Festival in Berlin. My film was a live action film, but amusingly I was screening in the same programme as theirs. I'm very grateful for this because it meant I got to be introduced to a side of visual storytelling that feels exciting and innovative. In this conversation, you'll learn all about how Tilly got started with animation and discovered her own voice as a filmmaker. She breaks down her creative process and how that has evolved throughout her career. Later on in the video, we talk about pitching to the BFI and the working relationship that is fostered from this. But before we jump into this video, a couple things to note. Please remember to subscribe and leave a like on the video as it really helps the channel out. And there are time codes in the description to help guide you throughout. I'll also leave a link to all of Tilly's films that are available on her website. You should definitely check them out. Otherwise, I hope you enjoy the conversation. Okay, hello. So firstly, what is Traces about and what is the inspiration behind it?
Sure. So it's about space debris, ultimately. Like, it's a story of a young boy and his astronaut father, but kind of the idea from it came, I was still at uni and I was trying to think of an idea for like a 2-minute film. And I just really got like hooked on the idea of like all of the junk that's left in space from kind of like moon missions and things like that, and like rocket launchers. And I found a picture that an astronaut had left behind of his like family on the moon, and that just kind of like got the ball rolling for Traces. So yeah, it's like a paint on glass, kind of like, it definitely leans more experimental than kind of traditional narrative. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, great. I mean, I'm going to ask you about Traces, but rather annoyingly, is it okay if I like start by going right back to the beginning of your career journey,
Of course it is.
and then working my way into it? Because I think I've gone on your website and I've seen all the films, and they're all really fascinating. And I hope that basically all of the questions I have are just variations on like how did you do that? Like how how'd you do that? But firstly, like, you know, I take it going back to like, say, school, like when did you first get interested in animation, and like, how did you realize that that was your thing as opposed to say like narrative live action filmmaking? Yeah.
I think for me, I was always had a really big like fascination with art, and I also loved writing as well and like storytelling, because I'm like a huge reader, always loved books and kind of being like wrapped up in stories. But I've loved films as well. You know, like my first job was at a cinema in Nottingham, which was like the best place for me to be. I think I only really started putting the pieces together of kind of like how can I tell stories, but how can I still like draw and create and things. I was like, oh, animation makes sense. Like, I was always, you know, a fan of animation, like love like classic Disney's, that sort of thing. But yeah, it was only really in the last few years of secondary school, I guess, when I was kind of starting to think, what am I going to do next? You know, after year 10, 11, like, where am I going to go? So I applied to do an art foundation at Nottingham College, and that was really useful because it kind of just let me experiment with a whole bunch of different things, and then eventually fully decide to commit to the animation pathway. But yeah, it's just it just kind of came naturally. It was just trying to figure out how to combine the things that I enjoyed the most into one thing that would allow me to do them both.
Yeah.
And it just kind of made sense. Like live action, I love live action films, like don't get me wrong. But yeah, that was never really on the cards for me to go into live action. Yeah.
When you were at school as well, did you have like any friends who had similar like ambitions, or were you alone in your sort of desires to go into art and animation?
I think there are a couple of friends who were definitely more like art aligned with me, and then we went to Art Foundation together, but neither of them were like animation people. In fact, like when I was at Nottingham College doing the foundation, I think there were only three of us out of a year group of probably like 90 to 100. Only three of us wanted to do like animation. So it felt kind of isolating, but I guess at least I was still in the environment where I was with other arty people. Um, but yeah, I can't say that my secondary school had like a particularly big art culture or anything like that. Like there were only five of us who did like art A level,
Yeah.
out of quite a big school as well. So yeah, but Art Foundation was fantastic as kind of like an eye-opening experience.
Yeah. It's interesting because I did physics, and then like realized later how I kind of fell into, like, I always talked about film at school, and like I
Mhm.
had a friend at school reunion who said to me that he knew that this was always where I was going to end up, but I was like, I didn't know. Like, but yeah, okay. So when did you go to UCA Farnham? Was that
Yeah.
after the foundation? And
Yeah, so that was after the foundation. I started there in September 2018. Um, the date always throws me off because I'm kind of like thinking of where I was in COVID and then working backwards.
yeah,
But yeah, 2018.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
How long were you doing the bachelor's or something on in anime?
yeah. So
Okay,
that was 3 years. So it was September 2018 to like May 2021. Yeah,
okay. And did you enjoy the course there? Was it like,
yeah. I really loved it, to be honest, and it definitely has like a little like asterisk with it because of the
yeah,
COVID and like the lockdowns and everything made it really difficult in places. But like I learned so much. The tutors were fantastic. I just got exposed to so much animation that I'd never even like really considered. And I think that for me was like one of the biggest things. Like in first year, you learn so much, but they show you so many short films. Like I didn't even realize that what I would come to do, like paint on glass and kind of under camera animation, I didn't even realize that was a thing. Like I went into the course thinking, oh, I'm going to do like 2D digital stuff. I don't really know why I thought that because like I always love like making things with my hands and kind of using like traditional materials and things like that. Um, but yeah, going to Farnham was amazing because it just opened up my eyes to all of the possibilities of animation. It's definitely like I say it is. I'm guessing it hasn't changed in the last like drastically in the last few years, but when I was there, it's definitely like a very much like a filmmaking course rather than a lot of animation courses, which kind of like teach you how to animate, if that makes sense. They definitely had more of a focus on filmmaking, rather than just like the animation principles, although they did that too. Yeah.
it's really funny to hear you say that because to hear what you said about like how it sort of opened your mind to what animation can do. Because when I met you in Berlin at the British Short Film Festival, like I don't know if I articulated it properly, but like one of the first thoughts I had when I was watching your film Traces was I didn't even know you could do this. Like I
Yeah,
didn't,
no,
I didn't know, like
literally.
I didn't like, oh wow, like, and again that kept happening because like later on we saw, I don't know if you were there for this. There was a screening of All Hail the Duck King, and there was an animation
Yes, I love that film.
of a child's duck.
Yeah,
And I was like, I don't even know how you come up with the idea for
yeah,
that, like, let alone think of how to do that.
yeah,
So what's exciting for me is it feels to me that animation is just endlessly innovative, and like what you guys are doing is genuinely exciting and genuinely experimental. Um, so your first film Mindful at Farnham?
yeah. That's kind of the one that I say was like my first proper film, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. Because I did do one when I was at foundation, um, and I like. don't get me wrong, like I'm proud of it. I was 18, kind of figuring out how to animate, and I just like did it kind of on my iPad, like 2D digital. It was like a tribute to all of the old cinema buildings in Nottingham because like that was just something that I was really interested in at the time. But Mindful was the first one I did properly, I think I want to say. But yeah, so that was in second year at UCA, and we had 12 weeks to make it, I want to say. It was definitely like September to December. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a really like I find watching all your films in the order in which they made really interesting, and I like doing that with filmmakers because you can see a thread of an
Hmm.
idea kind of come across. And so, what one of the things that really occurs to me about your films is the sensory nature of them, and like Mindful is like the first film on your website that has there's no dialogue. It's just like visual stories and emotive beats. Like, how did you plan that film, like in writing?
I didn't. That's probably the most truthful answer. Mindful was a funny one because I was really just I'm figuring it out for the first time. Like I was surrounded with like the rest of the course trying to make a film and not really having any experience with it. Um, I went into Mindful knowing that I wanted to make a film about kind of like my experience with meditation, because I've been trying it a bit more. Like I had the Headspace app and I just thought it was really helpful for kind of
Mm.
calming down and getting my thoughts in order. So I just wanted to use that as like a loose narrative idea because this doesn't really, there's a kind of a journey to it, but it's not really like there's characters or anything like that. And I wanted to experiment more with like using the rostrum and under camera animation. So I thought this is a good way of doing that. Yeah, I honestly I didn't plan it. I think I feel like I remember a tutorial where I was just kind of told, like, just go in there, animate what you want to animate, and then you like put it all together in the edit. And like that is pretty much what happened. Like I do somewhere I have a storyboard for it that we like showed at the crit that we did before the film. And none of that happens. That was at the point in the process of the film where I was trying to make it a bit more narrative based, and it only really all came together after I like fully let go of that. I was just like, okay, let's just see what I can put together. Yeah.
Yeah, it's that's quite funny because it's like I feel that storytelling is a human birthright fundamentally. Like we all tell stories, which kind of connects to one of the other ones you've made, Family Jewels, which is like the way
Mm.
people tell stories is innate and how we put comedy into it and things like that. And so it's very interesting to hear you say you didn't necessarily plan it, but in a way that's more pure. Like that's more. I said this to somebody else the other day. Like I'm always chasing the younger version of myself who didn't know any better.
For sure. Yeah, I get
Um,
that.
so I think that's quite interesting. So
I
what?
think I'd like to make a film like that again.
Oh
I
yeah,
think because it was just quite freeing, like scrubbing it all together and just it really came together. Yeah, in the edit, like just messing around, swapping things over, putting them in different places, and then the sound. Because I did it all myself, so it was just very much like baptism by fire, just kind of
so what ends
figuring it
up
all out.
on the cutting room floor on a film like that?
There are definitely a few scenes that I can remember kind of animating that just didn't make it through. Like there was one that I fully did with like the pastels and stuff with like a record and like a needle going down on a record, but it just didn't really fit. I think once I got going with it, I was a lot clearer with the imagery. So not loads. I mean, like there's not many things that I kind of cut out. Um, I think I just sort of like looked at the things I was happy with and thought, I have to make these work in
Mhm.
some way. Yeah.
Did you do the sound design as well and the music for it? You did
Yeah,
everything.
yeah. And
So
that was the first time I like played around with Audition or like free sound, like anything like that. Yeah.
I'm constantly like really impressed by like I spoke to another filmmaker again who's also like went to film school and he did all the sound and I was just really confused by how everyone's so good at this. Like
I
yeah.
I definitely don't feel like I'm any good at sound. I think it worked for Mindful. But yeah, I don't know. I guess it's just one of the things, like, I guess if you go to film school, you sort of have the freedom to play around with it a bit more. It definitely felt like that at UCA, because there was the potential to collab with like sound design students, but I don't really know of anyone that did it. I just, unlike other film schools, like there didn't really feel like there was a huge culture of collaboration. So you definitely have to learn by yourself.
Is there like a
Yeah.
collaborative project you have to do at some point in that course?
Yeah, there were a couple. There was definitely one in first year, and then which yeah, and then there was another one in second year, which was sort of like a 3D one, like where we were given a brief for it. But I think so much focus is put on the short films.
Yeah.
It was definitely, yeah, there was an art to balancing both of those because they were running simultaneously. I definitely didn't master that art. Some people did for sure, but not me. Yeah.
I hope you don't mind me asking as well. But I've had friends who've gone to film school, and they often talk to me about, and this is not animation, this is live action. They've often told me about how competitive it is, like when you're in the environment. Is that something that you experienced as well?
Yes, but in a kind of like not in a slightly more like subtle way, if that makes sense. I think definitely speaking for myself, like I compare myself to other people so often. So I was definitely putting that myself through that. And comparing myself with people who were completely different with me, like style wise and that sort of thing. I think there was like an undercurrent of competition. But yeah, it was definitely like just bubbling underneath and causing quite a lot of people a lot of stress. Rather than, yeah, rather than something more obvious.
Okay. It's interesting. Like that wasn't connected to the fact that you made a film called Mindful about meditation.
Yeah,
but
and I was stressed.
Yeah. So then you did Family Jewels, and was that in lockdown?
Yes. So that started. So finished Mindful, and that was like December 2019. Started Family Jewels January 2020. So there was like no, it was the Christmas break, and then it was like straight back in and make a longer film this time. And yeah, so I just went straight in with Family Jewels.
Right. Okay. So did lockdown like disturb the way you made that film?
I think I was quite fortunate because I'd come up with the idea for Family Jewels over Christmas because I went home and got my ears pierced for the first time. So my mum was like taking me through her jewelry box and being like, "Oh, you can have these, you can have these," and like telling me these stories about the jewelry, which is what Family Jewels is. So I had that element of it quite early on that recorded. I recorded the sound, like the interview with my mum and my gran. I think it was like towards the end of, no, it's probably, yeah, start of Feb, I reckon. So before it all kicked off. So I was quite fortunate because I'm just thinking I was quite fortunate, and then like, oh no, there were definitely some parts that were quite hard with the studio being closed. But at least I had the sound.
You had to work all from home then? Did you build a studio in your bedroom?
Yeah, I pretty much did. So there's one bit of the film, which is the first paint on glass bit with the like the soldier and his wife. And that I managed to do at uni. I think I also managed to get through the like some of the pastel stuff with the dog being kicked at uni. And then everything else was just at home in my bedroom with Markus's fold-out table. I was again quite fortunate because I managed to get like a kit from uni, which had camera, like a laptop with Dragon Frame, the software on it. But there were only a few of those to go around. I don't know why. Yeah, I was definitely lucky with that because if I hadn't had that, I wouldn't have been able to do anything.
Is it really just circumstance that you just happen to have that?
I vaguely remember that I had one before because I'd been working in the studio so much, like there'd been the kind of bubbling rumors going around of, oh, uni's going to close, uni's going to close. And I'd had a kit to kind of be prepared for it. And then I gave it up to a third year so that they could use it for their grad film, because I was like, well, makes sense. And then I think one of the tutors was so like touched that I'd done that she found one for me. She was like, "Here, you need one. You definitely need one." I was like, "Okay, I'm not gonna like complain about this." And she got me a rostrum as well, actually, because I'm looking at the one that's like right next to me here.
Yeah.
And I didn't have that at that point, so yeah,
What
they
is
set
that?
me up with
Sorry.
everything. It's my desk is so messy.
It's
This
okay.
is
Sorry, I didn't mean to impose.
No, it's all good.
Yeah.
So it's like the thing
cool.
that the camera's on, and then it goes down into my hairbrush
so cool.
on my phone.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's like essential for because it just shoots straight down. Yeah.
I see. Okay. What camera is that as well?
A really old Canon that I stole from my dad. It's a Canon EOS 70D.
Okay. That is odd. That's about like
yeah, it does the trick. I could do with a new one. But while it still works, I'll be right.
You can only have on your little finger a little ring like this.
Yeah.
A little tiny gold signature.
In the cup of tea. Don't swallow it.
Gordon Bennett. Oh dear. Oh, you bought me these from Jersey or Guernsey.
Good, aren't they?
Yeah, I love those. But I used to wear these all the time, sleep in them, shower in them, everything.
Did you?
Never ever took them out. And then I had a baby, and the baby used to
pull them. Yes, and pull your
so
ear.
I had to take them off.
I wonder who that was.
I wonder who it was.
Okay, so I think the approach with family values feels fundamentally different to the other ones, because it's an interview and then basically animating off an interview. So how did that experience go, like interviewing your family and like pitching the idea to them? And was it, I assume it was a lot longer in reality?
It was a lot longer. They were, both my mum and my gran were like completely up for it. It was just a nice little trip home up to Nottingham, and we recorded it around like my gran's kitchen table. So yeah, they were definitely on board for it. It changed it a lot more, but because with Mindful, I didn't really have any audio to go on beforehand, like that was just all done in post. But then with this one, it kind of gave me the guidelines of, right, we're going to tell this story, but there were lots of stories that actually didn't make the cut. I would have loved to put more in, but there's just no time. And
like, how did you find like directing conversation with like your gran and your mom?
It came quite naturally from what I remember. Like there were certain ones that I'd gone in being like, well, I want to talk about this one. Like which one? Like the locket. Like I knew that would be a big one, and it would be good to kind of set the tone at the start and go back to like one of the really old ones. But then everything else, it was just kind of like we literally went through both of like their jewelry boxes, and just I kind of worked with the spontaneous things that happened, like my mom's ring falling into a cup of tea, like that was just like a silly thing that genuinely did happen, but I was like, that's funny, so I'm going to put it in. And using I was just really trying to use like the kitchen and the vibes of it as like a grounding piece for all of the stories that came between, because I knew that they were going to be all different styles, so I kind of needed that to be a base to come back to.
So in Family Jewels, was that the first time you were working with oil on glass?
Yeah, yeah. I don't know why I
Okay.
said it like that, but it was,
Yeah.
yeah. It's because I knew that that's something that I wanted to do. Um, I don't know why I didn't do it for mindful. I think I played around with it a bit, but I know for a fact that I went into Family Jewels being like, I definitely want to try this. And that was the first test I did, because the bit with the locket was the very first part I did, and it's the part that I showed in my crit for Family Jewels. And I had a few other tests that were paint on glass as well. Yeah, and I fell in love with it pretty
Immediately.
quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Interesting. Interesting. So I think that kind of leads on to wings for butterflies. So
Mm.
I've seen this photograph. So this is one of my favorite photographs. There's a photograph of Julia Butterfly Hill, and my understanding is that is the inspiration behind this film.
Yeah, it's I don't really know where I like stumbled across her story. I think it is it really embarrassing if I think I was like scrolling down Facebook.
No, that's completely fine.
I feel like it was a kind of a clickbaity thing on Facebook. Like she lived for a year in a tree and this is what came next. And I was like, wow, let's read that.
Right.
But yeah, I really liked the concept of it, and just I think I'm more drawn towards like natural imagery as well, like nature and that sort of thing. Um, so yeah, I wanted to take her story but not have it be a documentary, just kind of make it a bit more like mystical, and allow myself to experiment more with paint on glass that way.
Yeah, it's quite interesting because like I think you're like one consistent theme, I think, on all four of the films is ecology and the idea of like
Mm.
how humans interact with the environment and like the things we leave and the things we interrupt. And like that appears to be, and I don't think that was by design necessarily, but
No,
it's,
I think that's a very very observant and very true. Like yeah, it feels like they're all very about very different things, but they do have that running through them,
yeah,
unintentionally. Yeah, just
it's,
it's just what I'm drawn to.
yeah, it's quite funny because like I think a lot of people want to know how do you find your voice as a filmmaker. And I think if you
Mm,
just do the things you're interested in, it sort of
yeah,
accidentally appears and
definitely,
quite good. Yeah.
definitely. It's just yeah, it's you figure out what you want to say by saying it.
Yeah.
It's just like it all. I don't know. For me, like at least with mindful, it all kind of came out in a big like mess, and then I could prune away things and figure out what it was. And it wasn't really like that with Family Jewels, but it kind of was with Wings for Butterflies as well. Or that one was more structured. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what I was going to ask because you said mindful was a time where you didn't have a plan, you just kind of made stuff,
Mhm.
and but you said that was something you haven't done since. So how did writing Wings for Butterfly go?
Again, like writing, it's gonna sound kind of crazy, but like for those first apart from like writing down the dialogue for Family Jewels, like transcribing it afterwards, after the conversations had happened, I didn't write a script for Wings for Butterflies. I only did like a storyboard and an animatic, and I think it would have benefited from a script.
Okay.
But yeah, it just wasn't really something like it wasn't something that we had to submit. Like we had to, show a storyboard for like approval and that sort of thing. You had to show an animatic, like a fine cut and a rough cut. Um, but yeah, I think I was really just telling the story through storyboards rather than writing it down with words.
I this is just so interesting to me because obviously I come from live action film and I do sort of philosophically believe, as I said, like we all have the innate ability to just like tell a story through pictures if we just like trusted that process.
Mhm.
I think a lot about Mad Max, which apparently Mad Max they didn't have a script; they just had storyboards for the whole movie.
Interesting. Yeah,
Um,
can see it.
yeah. um, and I think that's quite interesting because like I think if I was to break down, say, Wings for Butterfly, I think there
Mm.
are that there are beats of story. There is like
Hmm.
a setup, there's like conflict, there's,
Yeah.
reaction and resolution, and it's all emotive and it's all like sensory and there's no dialogue. But it's quite fascinating to hear that you don't think of it like in those terms. You just kind of, you innately go into it.
Yeah. I really don't know how to describe it. I must have at some point, like I'm sure I could go back through like journals and find kind of doing like a story graph and being like, right, this is where these are the beats. Um, but yeah, just kind of followed it along. You know.
And it's also a big kind of creative leap from the black and white stuff in Family Jewels. Like it's so vibrant, and the sense of color is the thing that like overwhelms you immediately. Like I really enjoyed the fact that I saw traces in the cinema. Like that's such a great way to sort of introduce myself to your work, because it is, as I said, evocative and emotive. With the color palette for Wings for Butterfly, like how did you define that?
That was very much like, at least I can say this was like a conscious choice. So I was doing a slightly different style of paint on glass than what I'd done for Family Jewels, because the scene in Family Jewels with the locket was lit from underneath. So that's why it was just it was kind of like monotone. It was like darker lines, but like less paint. And then for Wings for Butterflies, I lit it from above so that the colors were a lot richer. Because if you're lighting things from underneath, like they're gonna be so much darker. But Wings for Butterflies, I wanted it to be like really unrealistic, but like magical colors, to suit the themes of the film a bit more. But actually, my color palette for that, when I'm like talking about these things, I feel like, oh, I should have done that differently. There are so many things I'm like, if I could go back, I would probably have changed it. But I
Yeah.
mean, it's how you learn. I didn't mix any of the paints in advance apart from primary colors. So I literally had like a really big paint palette, and it had yellow, red, white, and dark blue. And then I just mixed them on the glass as I animated. Um, so yeah, I don't know. I think I needed to have like restraint in some way, because I think if I'd added more colors than those four in, it would have got quite muddy really quickly. But just having them as a boundary helped. But yeah,
Interesting.
that's how it came about.
Um, and also just like project management. Um, how do you approach that with?
Um, in what way? Just
Well,
kind
so
of
like
like,
have you ever done an animation that you've never finished? Do you mind me asking that?
yeah, well,
Okay,
so
yeah, 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 yeah.
many.
So I did 6 months at Met Film School in their like short form animation course, and this was also my lockdown experience. This is also what I was doing, but I was doing it in 3D.
Mhm.
And we did a film that we never finished. That was awesome. But like, well, what exists of it is really cool. But it is clearly like a small movie. So I'm kind of interested to know like how you navigate project management really, and like when you set out to do a project, how do you know if you're being too ambitious?
It's interesting because like for mindful family jewels and butterflies, like they didn't change that much from their conception. Like I think having the boundaries of like this is a uni project and I need to finish it and I need to do well because of my degree. It I don't think I could. I think I could have managed them better. I think I didn't really have that much of a production schedule. I just kind of booked time in the studio and I just based it around the time I could get and kind of did that. There were definitely times where, oh God, for butterflies, I was pretty much in the studio from like 8 till 6, 5 days a week. And I would have been in there 7 days a week, but the studios weren't open at the weekends. Yeah, I'm not great. I think because I'm just like such a borderline like chaotic, like experimental, messy person. I don't really lean towards project management.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you discovering new ideas like partway through the animation as well that you're like,
Oh, for sure, yeah. And it's just like little idea bunnies that you just kind of have to like kick away, because you're like, okay, well, I'm doing this. There are certain things like I think with the way that I was working, like for butterflies, I had a very loose animatic. So it let me, if there was something where I was like, oh, that could be cool, I could probably like squeeze it in, or just it allowed me to be a bit looser with it. Yeah, ultimately that's the thing, I guess. Like the way that I animate and the techniques that I use, I want to be as loose as possible, because if it's super regimented with like, if you had a really, really strict animatic, I wouldn't be able to kind of do any fun transitions. And I might, be painting one day and think, oh, actually, no, this would be a slightly better way of doing it. And I want to kind of give myself the room to do that, if that makes sense. Which wouldn't be great, like to be my producer. Like you would probably hate me for it, but I enjoy it.
yeah.
Yeah.
So talking about process as well. So do you have like one glass thing and you're just painting on the glass
Yeah.
and then
So
destroying it and then painting over?
yeah. I wish I had enough space to kind of keep individual frames. But yeah, no, everything that you've seen, like apart from like there are a few exceptions, like because some of the backgrounds for family jewels were like hand drawn and then scanned in. But yeah, everything from butterflies is like destroyed. It's just like a destructive process. And that was all on a singular pane. It was only when I started to do traces that Markus made from like an IKEA side table, like a little multi-plane. So that had the base layer of glass that I already had, and then a slightly higher one, so that the kind of more intricate movements with the astronauts could be separate. Otherwise, it just would have been way too time consuming, keeping them apart. Yeah.
I was going to say, so Traces has two planes of glass.
Yeah, not always.
Yeah.
But I feel like in most of the shots, it's two panes. Yeah.
Okay. And Butterflies is one pane,
Yeah.
just straight.
Just one.
That's got to do something to your brain psychologically to be like, this was a great painting and now it's over.
I think it's quite satisfying. But it's quite mindful in itself, because you learn to be a lot less precious with things, which is really good, because you're just like, well, this is great, and I've got a picture of it now, so it's like it's not gone forever, but like it has to go. I have to just say bye bye, like, and it just yeah, and that kind of mindset allows you to be a lot looser with it as well, which helps.
And again, I think I've sort of touched on this, but like, have you ever looked back on a photo and been like, oh, I forgot to do something, and then been like, well, tough.
Yeah. I
figure it out.
There's one bit in Mindful, and it's a candle like melting. And I remember after I'd done it, my tutor was like, I think if I was you, I would have like kind of had the wax build up a bit more at the bottom. And now whenever I see that film and that shot, I'm like, I should have done that. Like there's definitely things when I kind of get into like more of a flow that I forget to do them. So I guess that's the plus side of being a bit more strict with what you're about to do.
I think like what I hope, like maybe talking to me and being like, wow, this is all really great, is reassuring, because like I spoke to a filmmaker last week, and she was saying how she can't watch this one scene in her film because the location isn't the location she wants, and I didn't have no idea what she's talking about, because the privilege of the audience is I don't know these things. I just see a cool film.
Yeah, you're completely right. You're completely right, and that's just kind of it's being the filmmaker, isn't it? I feel like everybody's gonna have that like one thing where you're like, that I hate that, or like, oh, it annoys me, but nobody else has to know if you don't tell them about it.
Yeah, I think this is I think it's Peter Bogdanovich or Greta Gerwig. There's this quote that I really like, which is like the person that I'm trying to make the film for is me in 10 years who's forgotten the film, and then he could just like watch the film and then be like, oh wow, he did a good job. Like, that's I really enjoy that feeling, and I sometimes watch old student films and be like, he's on to something. which is
Yeah,
not the
no,
feeling I had at the time.
definitely. No, I completely agree. And that's like, it's nice to talk to you about like the earlier films because I couldn't watch Mindful for so long. It's nice to look back and think, oh yeah, no, I was onto something there. Like I can look at it and be like, I like this, I like parts of it, or I feel glad that I did it at least.
I should also say, so Mindful, in terms of festivals, Mindful got into the BFI Future Film Festival,
Mhm.
which is very impressive. I have applied to that festival 5 times in a row and got rejected 5 times in a row. So that's very good. And
The only downside was that
yeah.
it was in 2021. So
Oh, she
it
didn't go?
it never screened at BFI.
Oh, that's so
They
sad.
did some like cool stuff like
Yeah.
this. So they did try, but it was the worst possible year to
Oh.
be accepted.
But Butterflies got into Annecy. Now, this is a
Yeah.
festival that I did not know about because I'm very naive
You
until
didn't
I
know
met
about
well,
Annecy.
when you told me about it in Berlin, you acted like I knew what it was. You're like, like this,
Oh, yeah, of
have
course.
you been to Annecy? I think was the first question. And I was like, no, I don't know what that is. But I have since looked into it. It does seem to be a very big deal. So can you describe your experiences at Annecy?
I loved it. It was wings. Yeah, Butterflies getting in was completely unexpected. I don't know if I said this when I saw you in Berlin, but like the acceptance went into my junk folder and I saw it like 2 months too late.
Oh no.
And then the programmer went on my website and sent like a request being like, "Hi Tilly, just so you know, like the deadline for the information was yesterday. Just want to check that you're still in." And it was like Annecy, and I was like, "What's
Oh.
this like nonsense? Like what a stupid like spam junk thing." And then I clicked through, and he'd sent a link to like Annecy.com or whatever, and it was like slash wing. I was like, "Oh, that looks real." Um, so that was quite again chaotic. But yeah, so that first year, I I went and I had no idea what to expect pretty much. The only other festivals that I'd been to was Manchester Animation Festival, which is really fantastic, like such a brilliant festival, so well run. But Annecy was on a whole another level. Like it was massive. There was just so much to do. There were so many people to talk to, so many incredible films to see. So I've been back as like a just a person visiting every year because I completely fell in love with it. Like I'm sure you must have it with festivals. Like, after we were at British Shorts, like you just kind of by watching more short films, I always feel so encouraged to make more. And it's like
Yeah.
I wish I could bottle the feeling after like a week at Annecy of just kind of like, I love animation, I love short films, I want to do this, I want to do that, and then just kind of like drink a little bit of it, like in the dark months of like November and January when you're like, oh,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
I completely sympathize with that. I mean, like, there have been times where I've been working in the film industry where I've just felt so jaded and sort of disillusioned and like, is there any point to doing this? And then I go
Mhm.
to London Film Festival or Sundance London and it's just a shot on the arm because it's
Yeah,
like you watch, like, at London Film Festival, I'll do, oh my God, like, my record was 5 films in one day, which is not healthy. But I've done,
features.
yeah, yeah,
Oh
yeah.
God.
That's not good. Also like towards the end of the day, you don't want to fall asleep in a film.
No,
But
yeah.
like
But
yeah,
sometimes it happens and that's okay.
yeah. I'm quite, you don't get into that mindset. I once did that in a press screening, and then met the
Oh.
director who was really nice. But anyway, yeah. Genuinely speaking, like I watch a lot of features, at these festivals, and I just feel the energy to
Mhm.
create and the excitement to make something. And actually, coming out of Berlin Shorts, British Shorts Film Festival in Berlin, I don't usually see that many shorts in that same sort of concise period, and like I really kind of cracked my next short film script just coming out of that. Um,
Yeah.
and I applied to the BFI Short Film Fund, which brings me on to, thank you, brings me on to Traces. So you'd graduated
Mhm.
and then you pitched this project to the BFI. So what is it like to pitch an animation to the BFI Short Film Fund?
They're very encouraging. It's funny that you mentioned BFI Future Film Festival because that was where I first learned about like BFI Network and the Short Film Fund, because they'd had a meeting. They did all sorts of like networking things on Zoom like this. And one of them was just kind of speaking to a network exec and them telling us what was on offer. So that kind of like planted the seed way back then. So I always knew that it was a possibility for animation, but that they didn't get loads of animation. So I was like, well, maybe that's a good thing, because if they don't get loads and I come in and hit in and I'm just like, I want to paint on glass, and they're like, wow, I don't know what that means. So yeah, it was as you fully know, it's a lot. Like there's so much that you have to do for the application, and it's not easy. But it's you learn. I think you learn a lot about your film as you're doing it.
Exactly. Yeah. Like I actually like there's a small chance they're watching this. I'm actually pretty grateful to the process of doing the application, because it kind of no, genuinely I think it helps you understand your own story, and exactly what you said, like, because a lot of it is like writing out in prose like what your story is, and so it's funny, like I keep like interrogating you on like, how do you write this, because I guess you had to face that in places.
I did, and it was very weird for a while. It was going back to when I was like in school and doing really bad creative writing, because it's just something that when I went to uni I kind of completely dropped the ball with writing, because animation and animating took over my life. So yeah, it was definitely an interesting process, kind of going through and writing about a film that I want to make, and telling it through prose. It was So.
And I'd imagine you'd also have to sort of pitch your visual style and your things like it's great that you had butterflies because like you know, in the simplest way possible, like you could just say like, here's butterflies, do you want to see the next one? And that's
definitely like I was so grateful to that film, because I think without that film, like without it, there would just be nothing for them to go on and be like, well, okay, well, she literally did that, so she can at least do that and maybe more. Like I think it would be really, really hard to do an animation application without a good load of animation tests, or at least a previous film in a similar style. I don't think I'd done any like actual animation tests for traces, but I had enough of what I'd already done in other films that it worked.
And you don't have to like answer this too much if you don't want to, but presumably you'd have an interview as well with the BFI Network.
Yeah.
What kind of
and
questions?
I sat right here.
Oh, yeah.
It's throwback.
What kind of questions are they asking for an animation?
Oh God. Is it really bad if I can't remember?
That's okay.
The thing I remember the most, and I've probably got it written down in like a journal somewhere, so I will report back afterwards if I wrote down anything more specific. The most important thing in the interview was about my relationship with my producer, and just because we'd never worked together as like director and producer before, but because we are partners anyway, there was already like a really solid connection for them. I think they really look at you as a team. They don't just look at you as a director. They're just like, are these two or three, if you've got like director, writer and producer, are they a viable team? And it was just kind of sort of like asking us questions about each other and how well we'd work together, but not as obvious as that. And obviously like we did have to explain the film, but we'd done a lot of that in like the actual application anyway. It was definitely a huge emphasis on relationships between the team members.
Yeah, like I know Markus is off camera, so I'll try.
Yeah, he is working. He's not like working. Just sat here like.
No, it's okay. But can you like tell me about, like, not to be the BFI, but can you tell me about the working relationship, because he isn't credited on the previous films. So how did he get involved?
We never worked together before, because while I was doing my 3 films, he was doing his 3 films, which are amazing, by the way, and won several Royal Television Society awards.
Oh, really?
So good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Can
I
we say
think
his full name? Is Markus, how do you pronounce his
Markus
surname?
Øvre.
Uvle. Markus
he's,
Øvre.
he's like side-eyeing me now.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll send you the link, don't
Yeah,
worry.
please do.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I think I'd had the idea that I wanted to do this film, you know, I'd had the idea way back when I was still at uni, and then after a while, I was just kind of like, I might as well apply. I was not expecting to get the funding on the first go at all. I genuinely was like, let's roll the dice, because if you don't get it, which you won't, like they'll give you really useful feedback and you can work on it next time. So I just said to Marcus, like, would you be the producer on it? And he was like, yeah, sure, fine. I'm not doing anything else right now. I was doing things, but he was just like, yeah, that's fine, because so much of it is just, yeah. Like I know that he would kind of keep me on track, and he was so much more than the producer, because he did like all the editing, like the sound design as well, and it was like the moral support.
Yeah.
We didn't necessarily actually have a production schedule, which, yeah, if I feel like we submitted one for the BFI,
Yeah.
we didn't stick to it. We did not. I never
Yeah.
saw it again. We did
I
it,
don't
and
think
it was gone, and never saw it again.
I've done previous applications as well, and
Yeah.
you know, so I know this experience. And I remember when I made the production schedule, there was a feeling of like, this can change, this can,
Yeah,
but you know, I don't know if
100%.
they emphasize on that so much this time, because
Yeah.
it's weird to kind of predict what am I doing in 2027 on an application.
Yeah, no,
You know,
exactly. It's like there's definitely that wiggle room there. I mean, like, so many things can go wrong, and I think with doing the animation application as well, there was always the realization that it was going to take a lot longer. Like, we didn't necessarily have like, like a week's like worth of shooting dates. Like, it was just going to be a very consistent but gradual process. So, and I was working part-time then, so I was just kind of doing like 2 days part-time work and then 3 days on the film. But yeah, I think I just kept like chugging away with it, and we didn't have like that many check-ins with BFI Network, because I think they knew that it was coming along gradually, and they saw any updates when there were any.
yeah, I was going to ask about like how the check-ins and like how they would be like, oh, this is good, and like what do they, because if they
Yeah,
didn't like something, how did they alter an animation?
like once the animatic was locked in, it was just kind of like, there's not much that's going to change now. And then I went through animating the actual film. I wouldn't do this again, but I animated the film in order. So like the first scene I animated was the first scene of the film, and I think it's not the best idea, because I hadn't done paint and glass for a little while. Like, it'd been not that long, but long enough since I left uni that I was kind of rusty with it. So I think I would definitely, if I had any advice, like I would kind of start with like a scene in the middle and then go back. What was the question? Sorry, I've gone down a rabbit hole.
I've also forgot as well. So I think it's I was asking about like how hands-on the BFI network were, basically.
Yeah, so we didn't, yeah, they just kind of checked on us every couple of months, and would give certain feedback. But I think there are a few people within the network who are kind of like considered like animation specialists, but not every hub has one of those. So it was kind of more like feedback about like the feeling of the film rather than anything technical, about like this, like the style of the paint or anything like that. So just kind of our exec definitely, he was definitely like more narrative. So I think he probably would have preferred like more of like a character study than what we ended up with. But he wasn't too forceful. I think he kind of knew that this is a fairly unusual film. So I'm just sort of going to let them do it.
Yeah. That's fair enough. The other thing that's quite interesting about Traces is there's the grammar of cinematography built into the animation, which is one of the things that occurred to me when I saw
very
it.
kind of you to say.
Sorry.
That's very kind of you to say.
Yeah, but it's true. I mean, like there's a point in the film where it's a dad taking a photo of his son, and in animation you animate the racking of focus on the camera that he's holding, and in a POV shot, and similarly there's there's a bit where he's playing golf on the moon, and the camera dollies back and pans around. So this is the grammar of cinematography that I'm familiar with, but
Mhm.
applied to animation. And I feel like I know the answers to the question, which is like, how conscious were you about that stuff?
So the the camera shot, like where it adjusts, I think that was some After Effects trickery rather than,
Ah,
if I remember. It's like we knew that we wanted to do that, but I think it was just going to be too time consuming. Um, and then the one with the, I'm not sure I really remember which bit you're talking about.
like he's got a golf club, and
Yeah.
the camera like pulls out and
Mm.
then like goes around him as he swings the yeah.
Yeah, I definitely I wanted that. I think I one of the things that I felt a bit more that I wanted to try with tracers is to put things like that in and just give it a bit more dynamism because it's not really like paint on glass is it's hard to make dynamic, and I think my favorite paint on glass animators can do it, but I still feel like I'm learning so much with it. And yeah, I'm interested to put more kind of traditional film language in
Yeah.
my films.
It's
Yeah.
so cool. It's so cool because it's in those moments where you forget it's paint on glass. You're immersed in this weird, colorful world. And it's
Yeah.
like you made it 3D is what I'm saying. Is like by doing that, by moving camera in a painted world. And this is what I mean by like I didn't even know you could do that. Like that's
Yeah,
crazy.
there are so like I all I want to do is just talk about how great paint on glass is and like send you like my favorite paint on glass films because there are so many fantastic animators doing like
Yeah.
such brilliant things with it.
You are
It
more
feels
than
yeah.
welcome to educate me
Oh,
because yeah.
there's some ones that I think you would like, so I'll definitely send them your way. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I was gonna ask next. Um, okay, so you mentioned After Effects. So what
Mhm.
are the so we should talk about like software. So you mentioned a couple like, but what software do you use in general to make your animations?
I pretty much just use track and frame, and
Okay.
then anything else I send in that direction.
Oh, really?
So yeah, I drag and frame. Have you used it before?
I've never heard of it.
It's like a stop motion software where literally like it you take pictures with it, you have the workplace, you can replay the frames that you've taken. There's a lot more to it than that, but like I don't really dive into a lot of the cooler things that you can do with drag and frame, but I know that you can do some really awesome things with like more traditional stop motion and like puppets and things like that. But yeah, so that's the software that I kind of was using daily. But yeah, there's obviously like color correction, but we didn't do a huge amount of color correction. But like like anti-flickering things in After Effects. Yeah, there's a little bit of Maya in
Oh
some
yeah.
parts. Yeah, so in in certain scenes that were particularly tricky, someone said, "Don't say this." Like when I told them before, they were like, "Keep that a secret." But I'm like, whatever. It's the bit where the satellite is spinning and then
Oh yeah.
it explodes. That is Markus animated it in Maya, and then
Wow.
I kind of
Okay.
like rotoed it and added some bits in because it was just I
Wait, so
couldn't I couldn't wrap my head around it. Yeah,
so he's basically made a 3D model of the
yeah,
satellite, and then
yeah.
you've got pictures of that, and then are you
Yeah, so
tracing over the
the
pictures in paint?
the amazing thing about Dragon Frame, you can just kind of put like your reference image
Right.
in Dragon Frame. So then I'll be like animating here and I'll be like looking, kind of matching what's on my computer screen. So not projecting it directly, but like just using the screen. Yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay. In terms of like reference, like how big are you on like mood boards and things like that?
Yeah, no, I love a mood board for sure. And just kind of finding like color inspiration. Like color is so important to me when I'm making a film. But yeah, I think we didn't do much like filmed reference. I think we did a few bits, kind of like when the boy was picking up the ball and when they were like hugging, taking the picture. Yeah. But
When you
I
say
know
so, when
that
you say film reference, you mean literally you're filming
I'm
like
filming
you're
myself and
filming
I'm just
yourself.
like
Yeah.
picking up a ball. Yeah, like stop motion
Yeah.
animators do. But I don't do loads of it. Yeah, but it's useful. It's useful for sure.
I have a very specific question because that's just occurred to me. But there's a part of Butterflies where there's like she's walking in the forest and like towards the beginning, and there's like a lightning strike, and the colors go from like purple to red
Yeah,
for like a split second, but the painting doesn't change. And I was like, that's got to be After Effects.
yeah,
That's got to be.
yeah. You were right.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah, okay.
as far as I remember, I'm gonna have to double check that, but I'm
Okay,
pretty sure that was some trickery in After
okay.
Effects. Yeah,
Okay, cool.
yeah.
And the other thing I wanted to sort of mention is just like such good timing to talk to you about traces. Because at the time of recording, Artemis 2 has just passed the dark side of the
Yes.
moon. And I was like in the lead up of this, I was like having to like, go through all these films, but then thinking about how poignantly relevant like the concept is, especially when like Commander Reed Wiseman is like they're naming the crater after his late wife, and the idea of personal and universal feeling it feels so connected to the film. How do you feel about the Artemis 2 mission?
Yeah, I feel like it seems kind of, if you watch traces, that I'm kind of like, I hate space travel, like boo to space travel. And it's definitely not the vibe, because I'm so interested in it. Like I have you ever been to the National Space Centre in Leicester?
No, I haven't.
I love it. Like I feel
Yeah.
like that made up like a good chunk of my childhood. Like if you ever get the opportunity to go, it's fantastic. But yeah, I think it's great. And yeah,
Well,
I think, yeah.
there's certain images in traces that feel like direct references. Like, so you mentioned a photograph. I actually didn't know that, a photograph being left on the
Yeah, yeah.
moon. But there's a footprint that feels like the footprint from Apollo 11.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, is that?
It's, yeah. I think initially in some of the first drafts of Traces, there was the idea that we would have lots of different crews coming to the moon, and they would all be like in varying like styles of ship. So it would, we'd kind of have like some early Soviet crews, and like you'd kind of be able to recognize them, and it would be like as if we were overwhelmed with different eras of space travel, if that makes sense. And that just became too complicated, and like I think it would have been too hard to distinguish really. But yeah, I definitely kept in a lot of the like more like iconic imagery, like
Yeah.
even the golf club sort of thing. It's just like, yeah, we've got to do that. I've got to do the footprint. And the photo, like I couldn't not have the photo, because the photo is like fully where it all began, the
Yeah.
traces.
It's
Yeah.
I think it's kind of cool because you basically have the mindset of an editor, but like always, like from
Mhm.
writing, from animatic, and you're just basically refining story to be less complex as you're going along. Is that a
Yeah.
fair way? It's going,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think it's just kind of, I don't really think about it. It's just almost like built in, kind of reining myself in almost. Yeah.
And I wanted to ask, what is next? What is the future ambitions? What is the next project?
um, Big question mark. Yeah, we'll
Yeah.
see. I'm really keen to kind of, I've been doing a few like animation tests and just kind of like trying to not get back the love of animation, because it's definitely still there, but I'm always so inspired by seeing other people animate in different ways. And I'm always so keen to kind of like experiment in ways that I haven't animated before. So I'm kind of like trying to dip my toes back in paint on glass and like animating. I'd really, really love to make like a micro short animation this year.
Mm,
I'm kind of like sending that out into the universe, that I would love to make something more in the style of Mindful, I
mm.
suppose, that's just like a little bit more experimental, but just, yeah, it's something that I can do more part time as well.
But still paint on glass.
Yeah,
Yeah.
probably like, I mean, I love paint on glass so much, but I would also quite like to go back to just like other under camera things, because like I love pastel animation. I haven't done it in so long. But paint on glass is like my my one true love, I think. Yeah.
Do you have a sense on what the story might be, or is it too?
It's hard, yeah. I have like a little idea like flickering around, which is about my guinea pigs. Because I think for a good while, last year I was like suffering from proper art block. Like after I finished Traces, probably like this time last year, and then I had a good 6 months where I just could not do anything creative. I was just kind of like stuck. So I kind of got back into it by just drawing things that interested me, and like I had the guinea pigs right there, and I like just drawing them was, you know, they were perfect life models because they just sit there. So yeah, just kind of finding something that that won't bore me. You know, it's just something that I like. So I'm doing it for me, and just
and I also wanted to ask, how do you think, like, I'm sure, do people come up to you and ask for like advice about getting into animation? But like, how do you think, you know, future animators will be discovered and find their way?
God, yeah, that's a really good question. I think it's kind of a shame because like the style of animation that I like to do it's quite hard to get into without like a lot of equipment. I think you could definitely, you know, if you have a phone and if you have something that you can like balance your phone on, then you can invest in like some cheap paint and kind of do like paint on glass at home. But yeah, I don't know. I've got to say I'm an advocate for like animation school. But I know that it's not always like attainable for everybody. Yeah, I don't know. I just want more people to animate. I want more people to do paint on glass and like the really beautiful animation forms that you primarily see like at festivals. Like pin screen animation is so gorgeous.
What's that? Pin screen animation?
It's like literally like what I can't even describe it very well, but like, do you remember as a kid like those little pin screen things that you'd put your hand in and it would have like a mod? It's like that but massive. There's an absolutely gorgeous animation called The Night Boots. Have you seen it?
No.
If it's still online, I'll send you a link. But that was a fully pin screen film, and it was just fantastic. It was, I think it was shortlisted or longlisted for the Oscar last year.
Oh right, okay.
But yeah, just I'm very, very pro like unusual animation techniques.
So I was gonna ask about it. So, like, as I said, it's such an innovative visual art form. Is there a type of experimental style that you're thinking you might want to try someday?
I think for me, it's just mainly trying paint on glass in different ways. If that makes sense. And like even just animating with a different frame rate, like because all my previous films have been like 12 FPS, but I'm thinking maybe if I try 8 FPS and just kind of like how that changes the vibe of things. And yeah, just kind of like not reinventing the wheel, but just kind of trying to do what I already do, but differently. But I would love to try pin screen, but I don't know how I would do that.
I love hearing Tilly's enthusiasm for animation, and I think she's completely spot on. It occurred to me after meeting her that there is a wealth of innovative animated work happening in short films. Whilst there has been progress in mainstream feature work, it does surprise me that animated features haven't explored experimentation to quite the same degree. I sincerely encourage you to watch animated short films for yourself, and I would suggest starting with Tilly's work. There is a link to all her available films in the description. I want to take this opportunity to thank her for sitting down and chatting with me. If you engage with this conversation, please leave a comment to let me know. I read all the comments and I try to respond to as many as I can, so let's continue this conversation. As mentioned up top, please remember to subscribe and leave a like on the video if you're interested in seeing more big chats like this. It really helps me out. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you next time.